Hey, so in this video, I'm going to show you 9 different financial goals that you might want to consider accomplishing or achieving before you turn 30 years old. And look, if you're already 30 and you're watching this video, well, that's okay. You want to just consider getting these out of the way as soon as possible in order to create a better financial future for yourself. So we're just going to get started with this video, but make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss more videos like this one. We help people make more money, save more money, and build a better financial future for themselves. So the first one that we're going to mention here is by totally eradicating consumer debts. And this is very, very important. You really shouldn't be carrying these at any point in your life, large amounts of consumer debt, but it can be understandable if you're in your 20s, you graduated college, or even maybe high school and you started racking up a little bit of credit card debt. Happens to millions of people, but you'll want to consider getting rid of this as soon as possible because credit cards are generally between 15 and 25% APR. That's a very high interest rate for people to be paying. And if you just look at your previous credit card statements and see how much as a percentage of your card you've been paying in interest rates, it can be a lot of money. So that's a good number to set it at age 30. Eradicate that consumer debt, those personal loans, those high interest loans, anything over 10%, especially in the double digits for interest rates. Get rid of it as soon as possible. It's a great goal, a great number to be at. So this next one is a little bit debatable, but I think it's very essential for everyone, and that is by having some type of established credit. And I want you to hear me out on this because some people strictly use cash and they don't use credit cards. They don't ever borrow money in their life. If they want a car, they'll buy it in cash. If they want a house, they'll buy it in cash, and they never borrow money. But there are cases where you might not foresee that you need to have a credit score, but you might need one. Let me give you some examples of this. I know some people personally, they graduated high school, they wanted to go to college, they tried to get a loan, they needed their parents' help because they weren't even 18, so they needed someone to help co-sign and get the loan. But the parents either had no credit score or a terrible credit. And so what happens here in this case is that maybe you want to help your child and get a student loan, but if you have terrible credit or no credit score at all, you're going to end up paying so much more in interest rates because you haven't proven that you're a good borrower. So lenders are going to end up charging you so much more money in interest rates, and there's going to be times in your life where something like this might pop up that you might not foresee. Maybe you want to buy a house when you're 35, but if you have no credit or bad credit, getting that mortgage, not only is it going to be difficult, but you're going to end up paying thousands of dollars more than if you had a great credit score. So I would shoot for something around 700 or higher as a credit score. It doesn't have to be difficult to build credit. If you don't trust yourself with credit cards, that's okay. Maybe just consider getting one, buying a candy bar, and not touching it for a very, very long time after you pay off that candy bar, obviously. But that's just a strategy that you could consider using to build credit over time. We've made videos on that in the past, so you can always check those out. Now, the next one that is important for everybody, regardless of your current financial situation, is to have an emergency fund. And this actually especially applies to people who are on a lower income, especially if you're living almost paycheck to paycheck. Building an emergency fund is one of the very first steps that you want to take into action in order to build a better financial future. And it's the first step towards achieving financial freedom is getting that emergency fund set up. We're talking anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000 is a good range to have for that emergency fund. And we're not talking about, if you drop your phone in the toilet and you need a new phone. We're talking about serious emergencies, health emergencies. Maybe you have to get some type of thing in your mouth for a tooth. You have some really bad cavities, or you need a tooth pulled, or maybe your car breaks down on your way to work and you absolutely have to get to work in order to make more money. Those are the types of emergencies we're talking about. It's the first thing you want to do, and it can really alleviate a lot of pressure and a lot of stress in your life if you can just build that little cushion there. And obviously the more you have in that fund, the better, but $1,000 is what I would say would be the bare minimum. So this next one, nobody talks about it. I'm not sure why. It's probably just because it's not a very fun and exciting topic, but we're talking about taxes. And it's so important to fully understand the way that our tax system works. We're talking federal taxes, state taxes, local taxes, property tax, long-term, short-term capital gains. If you can understand the tax system, you can find these loopholes and legal ways to save thousands of dollars in taxes. And I think this is something that nobody looks at except for accountants. They give their reports to accountants at the end of the year and they file it for them and they never look at it. But if you're proactive about this, you can save so much money by just kind of hitting certain holes within the government that you can then save money on. This is why billionaire Warren Buffett says that he pays a lower percentage of his income in taxes than his secretary does. And he's making so much more money than her, but he's doing certain things like long-term capital gains tax over income tax, and he's able to save a lot of money in that way. So just take half a day to understand how our tax system works is going to benefit you so much over the course of your life by just understanding it. Now, when looking at the previous recessions and even the Great Depression, unemployment rates skyrocketed. And you want to think about a way to diversify your income so that you're sort of protecting yourself ever so slightly in a situation like this, because the economy might be doing very well at the moment, but a few years from now, you don't really know where it's going to be. It's very difficult to predict the economy. So you want to think about ways that you can diversify this income, maybe create some type of side hustle, or maybe have a few rental properties that are paying you for being a landlord and making some money off of that, or just monetizing a hobby. Maybe you're great at guitar. Find ways to do that. And you don't have to act upon them now, but just kind of have it in the back of your mind, some different ways that you could come up with money if you were to lose your job, get laid off from your work, because it is very possible in the future. And I don't want to scare anybody, but it's just very important to plan ahead for that so that you're fully prepared. The next goal to have, and this might be difficult for some people, others, you never had to worry about this in your life. That's by paying off your student loans as much as possible by age 30. Now, paying them off entirely by age 30 is a great goal to have, considering that the average graduate today graduates with about $36,000 in total student loans, and they're age 22 or 23. Over that course of the next about 7 years or so, you should be able to pay off that $36,000 as long as you're adamant about it. But if you have $150,000 in loans because you went to a very expensive school, it might be difficult by age 30. But at the very least, have a plan, have a dedicated plan carefully laid out so that you know exactly when you're going to be able to pay them off. But it's pretty sad to see some people carrying these student loans into their 40s and even in some cases into their 50s from decades ago, these student loans. So you want to pay them off as soon as possible. And really a great goal to have by age 30 is to have almost no debt, besides maybe you have a home mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, or maybe you have an auto loan or two for a car that you might want to use to get to work, but trying to get rid of as many debts as possible, as few as possible with low interest rates. Now, this next one is to try to find ways to insure yourself a little bit more. Now, when you're in your 20s, you can get away with a lot more, but once you start hitting more financial responsibilities and household responsibilities, you're going to want to think about ways to kind of protect yourself against that. So obviously we're talking about health insurance, but even dental insurance and more so life insurance as well. If you have a young family, you want to really consider that, getting some type of life insurance. You don't have to go gung-ho with it and be paying hundreds of dollars per month for life insurance, but think about it a little bit more than maybe you have in the past, as well as homeowners insurance or renters insurance. Just some other ways to kind of protect yourself against some of these different things that could crop up in your life that maybe you could handle a lot easier in your 20s, but now that you have responsibilities, it's going to be more difficult to do that with ease. So insurance is very important. Now, this next one we're just going to touch on ever so slightly, and that is by finding ways to donate to charity, because we're really all in this together. So I think it's important for everybody to find ways to donate. And if you don't have a lot of money, maybe find ways to donate your time. But once you hit your 30s, you might have a little bit more money flowing in, hopefully. And so because of that, you can find ways to donate more money. Personally, like the smaller local charities versus large nationwide ones, which you'll kind of donate to, and then 75% of that money sometimes just goes back into marketing to get more money. It's just kind of a weird concept. I like smaller ones, which you know that 100% of those proceeds are going towards that local charity. So that's just an idea. Now, the last goal is to have a goal for retirement. And this is so important. And it might sound a little bit weird. A goal is to have a goal. But by age 30, look, some people think, look, I'm not going to retire until I'm 65. That's 35 years from age 30. But being realistic, you can retire earlier. And the only way to do that is to start thinking about it when you're 30 or even younger, to start thinking about it at that point. So if you can be proactive about this, you can find ways to shave off years off of your retirement date. So instead of age 63 like the average American, you can shave it down to age 60 or even age 55 or even earlier if you are very adamant about it. And that's kind of something that I think everybody should do, is create a budget. I talk about this all the time, but it's so important. I have a free budget template down in the description below. Every single month, I'm tracking my assets, my liabilities, everything that's going on, so that I know where I stand financially and where I want to be in the future, so that I'm prepared for it and set up for success. So that's just something that I believe everybody should be doing. See how much money you invested in the past in your 20s and where you stand at the moment. So thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to share this with somebody who might be coming up on 30, and I'll see everybody next time.